it's Nikki Batgirl D'Angelo here for another episode of Star Citizens Addicts Anonymous. This is episode 15, and I think I'm going to call it Organizations. Well, maybe. I'm trying to get this one out, and we're going to see how long I can talk before I sneeze my head off. I've been fighting the flu. I spent a couple of days shivering in my bed and taking lots and lots of medication. But let's see how this one goes, okay? So last week we had a really big week because on Tuesday, I think it was Wednesday, the organization system went live. And by the end of the week, there were over 9,000 organizations that had been created, including our very own for SCAA, the enablers. The organization structure is fairly, it's fairly basic right now, and it's going to expand in the future. There is a chat system based on XMPP, which is an open source protocol. So if you use clients like Pigeon or Adium, and I know there's one on Android, but I haven't found one that successfully works on iOS yet, you'll be able to chat with members of your own organization and other people in the game when you're away from the game engine. When you're at work, you could be using your iPhone, your Android Galaxy or Moto X, whatever you might have, or of course an iPad or an Android tablet. It goes without saying that a Windows tablet would work because it's Windows. The chat system is pretty significantly different than the previous model. There's no 500-person cap, and you've got a lot of controls as a head of an organization on what you can do and how you moderate it. So automatically the officers and head of the organization become a moderator of chat. Currently there are no bulletin boards, so you'll have to go and create your own outside or use, well, I guess that's the way that you would do it. We've been using a thread inside of the subscriber den until we opened up the SCAA web page last weekend, I believe it was. So there are other things that are live in there. There's, of course, you get to choose two different specializations. It seems that the number one so far is far and beyond anything else is freelancing. I thought social would be up in there because I'm in a WoW guild called Alia Iacta Est, and it's a social organization that has a lot of different play styles in it, and that's one of the big reasons that people join it, because it's casual and social, but also because I have millions of things you could do. But right now it's very difficult by just picking two of those things, what exactly your purpose is. So you need to make sure that you write it down in the introduction of your guild, your organization, the manifest, the charter. So make sure that you have things specific. Imperium has a wonderful website and organization front page dedicated to tell people what they're about. Way to go, guys. You are amazing, and I think that's why you have thousands of members by now, I believe. The other things that are coming in the future are going to be, of course, a organizational map or an org chart, and that's one of the things that we already have for ours. We have division, well, we'll talk about the enablers later. You could set up many different divisions inside of the organization, of course, just by creating an org chart, but currently, and I don't see in the future how that is going to manifest itself on this type of a website on RSI. The fleet view is interesting. I don't know how it's going to work right now, but I think you're going to be able to assign ships that you have that you have assigned to a character slot to organization use. I think that's what you're going to be able to see in the fleet view. Those are all things that are coming, and of course, very soon, they promised us in the next release, you are going to be able to join multiple organizations, and I think that's going to be wonderful because there are some people that are going to want to be in one org to do their day-to-day stuff, and then there's other people that are going to want to be in another org for their social aspects. And I think that this is a great way to do it. Or how Chris explained it, that you might want to be part of the Merchants Guild, which is going to be a NPC guild, or maybe a Traders Guild. So I like the way that these things work. All right, so right after that, we had another stretch goal that was hit, and it's the $37 million stretch goal. And that unlocked the Tanga system, which is the center of a stellar graveyard. I think it's actually a nebula, right? the star went big, blew off its mass, the coronal mass. It blew off the atmospheres of the close-in planets, obliterated some others. There was one, it happened that way. But this is one of those things that we voted on, and currently the vote went to, for this one, it's going to be the actual, I'm sorry for bumbling over my words. Please bear with me because I'm barely able to stand here right now. But the $39 million stretch goal is going to be the unexplored natural wonder, and I like how they're doing this one. They're pretty much saying it's out there. We've discovered that this big giant star that we thought was there is actually a trinary star system. We don't know how to get there. We think there's a jump point somewhere in this direction, but we haven't had anybody map it yet. I like this because the system currently just has a designation, which is UDS 29430122. I wonder if that, of course, that's 2943-122, January 22nd. I wonder if that means that the person that discovers it is going to be able to name it. That's pretty cool and something to do. I'm hoping that the Anvil Carrack is out before the game actually launches, so I could get my little exploration fleet and go out there and try to map a jump point to there. We are looking at Sandi right now, and Sandi's sitting in front of a desk. It's a very poor picture. I wish you got somebody else to take it, Sandi. But she's sitting in front of a desk with all different joysticks in front of her. I see a Logitech joystick. I think that's a Warthog and is that an X52? Something like that. She wants us to give our input on the type of joystick system we want. Do we want HOTAs? Do we want not? Do we want it dedicated to the actual game, or do we want to be able to use it in multiple games? What brand do you like? Do you already own a HOTAS? Those are things that she wants to know. And she's put out a poll, and she's probably trying to facilitate moving ahead on this endeavor she has to try to get our long-awaited Star Citizen joystick picked out, I should say. There's a little bit more lore out there. There's this Congress Now thing. It's essentially broken down to this. There's two senators that are having a discussion with the rest of the Senate, and essentially what's going on is that the Xi'an Corporation, JISO, I can't pronounce it with my nose all stuffed, corporation is Xi'an-based, and they're wanting to open service stations inside of UEE space. One senator is saying, you know what, this would be something that would help us out here. And the other one is saying, you know what, hold off. If we let one in, then there's going to be these all over the place. I guess you could look back to the 70s or maybe the 60s when Datsun and Toyota and and Honda were starting to make cars and build them here. And currently there's some Chinese manufacturers trying to sell some cars in the U.S. And I'm sure there's situations like that go on in the U.S. Congress. I'm not sure about the European unions or individual countries. I think that everywhere else in the world, it's pretty much, hey, you want to do business here, do business here. I think it's only us in the United States that think we're, pretty much alone. This was an interesting read-through, and I suggest that you take a look at it. Lore Builder 13 came and went, and it was essentially David Haddock shoring up the squadron numbering system. He has laid out this organization chart that starts at the head of the UEE and goes right down to the flights. And I think that's pretty good that they put that together for us because it gives us a full... See, I told you I might not make it through. It gives us a full chain of command for the UEE and all the different fleets that are going to make up the actual, make up what we're going to be doing in the game. And of course, we're going to have our own organization structures, and we'll get to that in a little bit. All right, so the next thing that came after Lore Builder, one last thing in Lore Builder. David, at the very end of it, said, we're going to stop Lore Builder for a while. He has some really rich and wonderful fiction coming out for the game universe, and that's going to be things that I guess we'll see dropped into the comlink, but I expect that on Friday in Jump Point. So that's wonderful. And they're saying, well, he's saying that the lore builder will come back as needed in the future. So that's it for lore builder with 13 episodes, and that's, that's a quarter. That's 3 months. So Wingmans Hangar, we're going to skip over all the questions because obviously they were all video based. The big things that came out of it are there is the summit coming up this weekend, or I should say this week. It's now Tuesday. And you're going to have everybody there from, all the heads of the departments, okay? You're going to have, you're going to have Aaron there with some of his team. You're going to have the team from Montreal, from LA, from Austin, all discussing the different modules and different things and the direction that they're going to be going in the next quarter, okay? We have DFM coming out. They're going to be discussing that and how they can get that out in the right way. Of course, there's a planet side module coming out after that. And Chris alluded to on this very show that there's also the first-person shooter aspect that's going to be seen sometime in the next 3 to 6 months. So that's a lot going on. They have a lot to get together there. Then they brought on Dan Tracy, and he talked about the animation system from everything from the actual manipulating of the arms and limbs and bodies of the pilots and people that will be in the game to the manipulation of all the different movable surfaces of the ships and things like the gun, and also alluded to the fact that we're going to have an update to that, sorry, I don't mean to say this, but that useless gun system, that firing range, which they're going to be making it better, and that's going to be wonderful, okay? All right, so Wingmans Hangar moved right into 10 for, 10 for the chairman, which was 9, I agree, but, everybody is trying to get ready for that summit, so cut people some slack, all right? I'm going to pull out 2 of the most important questions that I think were asked. The first thing is going to be ship buying and selling. So, somebody asked, let me know what this whole ship buying and selling is going to be and how it's going to be implemented. And Chris went into a very long explanation and very deep into it about how ship and equipment purchasing is going to work. You're going to be on one side of the galaxy, the best ship, like say you want an Avenger, you're going to have to go to where that ship is actually made to get the newest, best ship. Otherwise, out on the fringes of the galaxy, you might be getting a used ship. This is reading between the lines. If you want to equip your ship, you might want to travel across the galaxy to, this person that, well, hopefully one of my people in the enablers, but an NPC somewhere that sells the best guns or the best shields or the best science systems, whatever it might be. So it's going to be very involved. And then that led into a question about leveling. And I think that these might have been offset. So this is the next part of it. And he said there's not going to be leveling in this. The leveling is going to be how you equip your ship. Monetarily, that means, it's going to cost you big money to equip your ship. For those of you that love LTI, well, let's put it this way. Chris has already said that the hull is not even going to be half of the cost of what your ship is. So LTI covers your hull. But it doesn't cover any of the other equipment. And I'm sure that you can buy insurance on that, but LTI does not. So what that means is that you're going to be able to build a ship, and right off the bat, if you have the money in the game, like say you're an Imperium, and I'm not calling you guys out for anything other than you have 1,000+ members, and maybe a lot more than that. And they take all this money out of their coffers to buy you the best ship, the best weapons and everything. You come into the ship and you are great day one. I think that there's a balance equation there that I don't get right now. How are you going to balance that, Chris? Like in MMOs and even, spreadsheets in space, EVE, there are skill-based and there's level-based systems that keep everything in check so it doesn't become who has the most money wins. In this particular way, I fear that a group that could buy all their members lots and lots and lots of vessels over time is going to win. And that's going to be tough, considering there's going to be a lot of PvP in this game, and the ship build-out, how you equip your ship, is going to be more important than the ship itself. A very well-equipped Aurora might be able to take out a stock 300, for instance. I mean, I'm very sure that's one of the things that could happen here. So those are the two questions that I actually pulled out because they went together. But as usual, please go out there and watch 10 for the Chairman, because it's a wonderful addition, and it's probably going to break out on its own as its own show in the future, or part of the LA show, now that Ben is there. So that was 10 for the Chairman. So what came after that? Look at that. What is that? What is that back there? There's two of them. These pictures came out yesterday. And I think this is old art because, when you look at the people in the picture and the size of the cutlass, and you look at those two ships back there, I think this is early art that is for the Pirate Hangar or the Asteroid Hangar. And I think that's probably original Avengers, but I'm not sure. Of course, there is that ship that they mentioned a couple of weeks ago, the Buccaneer, but I'm sure it would never look that good. That looks like an Aegis design if I've ever seen one. But we've got these beautiful pictures of the actual system, I should say the Asteroid Hangar, and I'm telling you, I like them. I think it's good, and immediately, well, we'll leave that out. In this next segment, I want to talk about a few things that are changing for Star Citizen's Addicts Anonymous. First thing is, we have a web page, and that's going to be very important, so listen up. Here's the web page. It's broken down into a few basic tabs. You've got on the main page the newest video that I might have run, and that can be anything from, of course, the next SCAA to a Kerbal Space Program video or something else. Then you have the forums tab and a tab for each one of the individual playlists that I have on YouTube. Inside the forums, it's broken down very basically. We have the announcements on top, and that's where I posted today that this episode was going to be late because I have the flu. You have Confessions of Star Citizen Addict, and then you have one different topic thread. Sorry, getting through this is tough. For each one of the shows, then you have an introduce yourself, a meetup, and off topics. And I have that, it's copied from some other places that I have been a member of. Most recently, Aliyah Acta Est. Hidden from y'all is the organization forums, and when you become a member of the enablers, that will be available to you. So you have a place to discuss the show, a place to give me feedback, and a place to find out about different announcements and contests on the show. I said contest. We'll talk about that in a second. First thing is, here's my old logo. And then here's a logo that Pappy Boynton did for me. And that's the one that I'm going to go with. So in future episodes, if not this one, I'm going to incorporate the new logo into my show because I thought I needed something different different than CIG's logo. They never said anything. In fact, I think they embrace the marketing of that brand, but I think the show needs to have something different. So I mentioned a contest, all right? So I have been given a ship to give away. Confessions of a Star Citizen Addict is a very important part of the show. It's how I end every show. I read them off, and they could be anything from a short story to something that's very well written, telling me about your falling into addiction. Which, face it, we're not addicted. We're choosing to do this, but falling into addiction with Star Citizen. I've read 14 plus already because I read like 3 or 4 the week of the big sale. And I've got another one to read today. What I want to do is give away an Avenger package this month, and then each month a different package to the person that has the best Confession of a Star Citizen post that month. Here's how I'm going to work it. This week we're going to have one by Captain Feathered. Okay? And then we're going to have the month of February. We're going to have another 4 or 5 posts that I'm going to read. The last week that I come on, I'm going to say, all right, this after the end of this one, I'm going to put a poll up in that section. And everyone that watches here is going to go and vote on which one was the best. And that's who's going to get the actual package. And I'm going to do that each month until I can't afford to buy another ship. This month, it's provided by CIG. Thank you very much, CIG, Sandi. That was wonderful for you to do. But in the future, I'm going to provide it with the actual funds that I've been getting as wonderful donations from y'all. I think that you've helped me buy quite a lot of the things that are in this room, like camera, microphone stand, not the green screen or the lights. I had that purchased beforehand, but thank you all. But I'm thinking that now, at this point that we've got this down, we're going to put that money aside and use it for events like taking care of Dragon Con, PAX, and trips out to do meetups with the Star Citizen fans, and use some of it to give back to the viewers to, thank you for watching. Sorry I'm going through it this way. I had this all planned, but my nose is getting stuffed up all of a sudden. All right, and that's all I got. So get out there, give me your post. Hi everyone, Nikki Batgirl D'Angelo here to remind you that Friday at 6 p.m. the next Great Starship Contest begins. Over 200 contestants submitted their entries. We've been trimmed to 24, and by the end of Friday there'll only be 16. Kind of makes me sad. I stalk the mod forums every now and then. There's wonderful pieces of artwork out there. Well, ships. And I love to buy ships, let me tell you. And I will feel bad each time somebody falls off the show. Hopefully there'll be a way for us to get some of the unfinished work if they complete it in the mod forums. Anyway, tune in. Each week I will be doing a recap in my show. And that's all I got for you today. You all have a great weekend. I wasn't a ship guy. I'd never been drawn to the ship sales lots like my dad was. When I was a kid, he would drag me along on Sundays to look at whatever ship caught his eyes most recently. But here I was, looking at the Avenger he always wanted. This was for him. He'd been an advocacy agent for years before taking a bullet in the knee, and he had been forced to retire. When the Avenger started hitting the consumer markets, that was a ship he would always look for first on the lot. I'm not sure if he was missing the ship or missing the job, but the yearning was obvious. Still, he never bought one. There was always something else that needed the money, and he wouldn't treat himself. We got the news about a year ago. He had cancer. It was likely to be terminal. He was a fighter though. That's how he'd lived his whole life. He took on in-system jobs hauling cargo between Pike, Terra, and Jen in his little Aurora to help pay for the treatments. A few months in, and he had lost his hair and a substantial amount of weight. He would joke with my mom that he'd never been better looking. About a month ago, he was leaving the contracting office with his pay and headed back home to my parents' new flat in the block when he stumbled upon a mugging. Maybe it was his instincts from years on the job, or maybe it was knowing he was a dead man walking. But he jumped into action and tried to subdue the suspect. In the ensuing scuffle, a gun went off. He was shot in the chest through a lung. The doctors were able to save his life, but his weakened immune system couldn't keep up the fight. He died in the hospital a few days later. Unbeknownst to my mother and I, he had invested in a very large life insurance policy. That's why he'd never bought the Avenger for himself. He was putting the money elsewhere. Now here I was, looking at the Avenger he had always wanted. I had to admit, she was a beautiful ship, sleek but powerful. The salesman was in luck. I wasn't here to haggle. I was here to buy. The salesman did his speech about the benefits of the Avenger ownership. That's when the cutlass on the lot caught my eye. I absent-mindedly walked away while the salesman spoke. I walked up to the cargo ramp, through the hold, and into the cockpit. I sat down in the pilot's seat. I felt a hand on my shoulder, and I heard my father say, "Do it, son. Treat yourself." I turned back to see the salesman hurrying up the ramp. "Are you still interested in the Avenger?" he asked. "I'll take them both." I wasn't a ship guy, but then again, maybe I was. That's when it all started. Hey Rob and Eric, it's Nikki Batgirl D'Angelo here, and I've got an important question to ask you about dogfighting. I know it's not done, and there's still going to be a lot of balancing to take place in the game, so this might be a question that really comes later on. But in any respect, I've been playing a few of the dogfighting sims from the past, and in the background over here you see War Thunder. I'm using that one because it has the best graphics. So in a World War II style sim, like you're trying to make this, there's a lot of energy management. But in this game, in Newtonian physics and in the way that you're producing these thrusters to be able to push you around, I don't see where that energy management is. The reason I ask this is I've had some fun in War Thunder where I have been able to really go on a tear sometimes, taking out planes that are well above me by knowing basic air combat skills. Like when you're pulling up and kicking over and doing a hammerhead to come down on somebody, that really takes somebody by surprise if they don't understand it. So here's the question. In the game currently, the way that I read the thrusters is that they have a constant thrust all the time. And that means that you can just sit and turn around in a circle forever and ever and never lose any energy. Here's my proposition. What if the actual thrusters had a charge like the Afterburner and Freelancer? The longer you held that turn, the charge would then stop, and then the only thing that you would be able to do is flip the axis of the actual spaceship, but not actually turn it. So in essence, you would come out of the turn and just keep on going in one direction and be able to go around your axis, but not turn. It would mean that it would be a little bit more difficult in a dogfight, but it would also mean that people have to pay attention to their energy management. And it really could be fun. I mean, I can see it, it's essentially like turning off the limiter. So you can spin the axis around and not turn the actual flight path around. I hope I've explained it right. I know that in my head I got this one, and on paper, I've actually worked this one out. But I think that this could actually make the dogfighting module really fun for the more advanced people. Thank you.